It was a hot summer's day on the island of Sodor. The engines were busy taking trucks full of slate from the quarry. The heat and dust made their axles ache. We've shunted every truck in the quarry today, wheezed Scarloey. But I'm too thirsty to feel useful, complained Peter Sam. Summer is a busy time on the island of Sodor. Holidaymakers have so much to see and do. There are trips to the seaside, balloon rides in the country, and a brass band playing. Toby's favourite place is the old windmill. The windmill is worn. It cannot make much flour now. Toby loves to watch the sails go round, and the miller is his friend. Good morning, Toby. The summer sunshine made people thirsty too. The refreshment lady was keeping very busy at the tea rooms. The next day, the fat controller had news for Peter Sam. The refreshment lady needs a place for another tea room. I can find her a beautiful place. I knew it. It'll be a piece of cake. Tea rooms don't live in cakes. It's just my way of saying it would be fun and easy to find the right place. The engines love working when the sun shines. Thomas and Percy were helping Salty at the docks, but Salty was worried. It may be sunny now, matey, but there be a storm coming. It may be sunny now, matey, but there be a storm coming. There be a fierce storm on the way, Cap'n, peeped Percy. Salty knew they were making fun of him. He felt sad. Peter Sam puffed along the woodland way. And the old castle causeway. And the whispering waterfall. Thank you, Peter Sam, said the refreshment lady, but I don't know what to do. I can't make up my mind. What a shame I can't build a tea room in each place. Peter Sam was very disappointed. He didn't feel useful. Edward was in a hurry. He didn't even stop to say hello to Stepney. Thomas was pleased to see Edward. Your smile's as broad as your smoke box. I'm on my way to pick up the brass band, replied Edward. The concert is tomorrow night. Don't crack your smoke box, teased Thomas. Edward couldn't wait to hear the brass band play their wonderful music. He was so excited about meeting the brass band that he didn't notice the giant crane. It was unloading a huge ship's boiler. Suddenly, the crane swung the boiler and knocked Edward right off the track. Cranky had been watching. You useless little engines are always in the way. Poor Edward. The fat controller came immediately. We will take you to the fitter's yard and Bertie will have to meet the brass band instead of you. Edward was sad. Toby was collecting a load of flour to take to the market. But he was so busy watching the windmill sails that he forgot to look where he was going. All the flour was damaged and the miller was upset. If I can't sell my flour, I'll have to shut down the windmill. I'm sorry, sighed Toby. Harvey arrived to put the trucks back on the track. Toby was sad. What will the miller do if his mill shuts down? It's a shame, said his driver, but we must hurry, Toby. There's a storm on the way. Later, the Fat Controller arrived. I want you to fetch Fergus from the smelters. His driver doesn't know the line. Aye, aye, sir, replied Salty sadly. Salty was glad he was going to the smelters. He didn't want to stay where he wasn't liked. What's wrong? Asked Emily. Nobody likes being made fun of by silly tank engines. Goodbye. Emily knew she had to find Thomas and Percy immediately. Those be dark clouds, matey, whistled Thomas. There be a fierce storm on the way, Cap'n, peeped Percy. Emily was cross. It's no nice to copy the way others speak. You hurt Salty's feelings. We were just having fun, said Percy. We'll say sorry to him, added Thomas. But Salty was nowhere to be found. Thomas and Percy were worried. Fergus was waiting for Salty when he arrived at the smelters. Right on time, congratulated Fergus. Aye, but there's a storm coming, said Salty. We must hurry. Soon they were hooked up and on their way home. Salty was right about the storm. It was a fierce one. The fitters worked through the night trying to mend Edward. Now Edward felt sad and very damp. All the engines were talking excitedly about the storm, except Peter Sam. He was thinking about the refreshment ladies' tea room. Toby couldn't sleep that night. It wasn't the thunder and lightning that kept him awake. He was still worrying about the miller. That stormy night, the old windmill was struck by lightning. The ships at sea depend upon the lighthouse to keep them safely off the rocks. But now there was trouble. The lighthouse lamp has gone out, cried the captain. Salty and Fergus were fighting their way back through the wind and rain. Then Salty saw a lantern ahead. The lighthouse keeper was waiting for him. Our lighthouse lamp has gone out. Our generator is broken. Salty had an idea. Fergus has a flywheel. It could power the generator. Hurry, shouted the lighthouse keeper. Fergus's flywheel was attached to the generator shaft. Without the lighthouse, the ship was steaming towards the rocks. Fergus was working as fast as he could. Finally, the generator came back to life. The lighthouse beam shone across the stormy sea once more, just in time. Harder starboard, matey. Salty's idea had saved the day. Fergus worked hard until first light. Morning came and the Fat Controller arrived. Please, sir, pleaded Edward, will the fitters be finished soon? Not soon enough, and the band can't wait. I'm sorry, Edward. Bertie will take them to the concert. Edward felt worse than ever. Toby chuffed carefully along his branch line. The storm had torn trees from the ground, and farm buildings had been damaged. Then Toby saw the most shocking sight of all. "The windmill is broken!" he cried. "This means the end of my business," said the miller sadly. "I can't afford the timber to make repairs." Toby really wanted to help. There must be a way. The Fat Controller came to the sheds. "Peter Sam, I want you to go and help Rusty clear the storm damage." "Yes, sir," Peter Sam said, and he hurried away. At last he thought he could be really useful. Peter Sam soon found Rusty. The storm had swept the shed onto the line. "Driver says this shed is useless now." "It's not a shed," exclaimed Peter Sam. "It's an old railway coach." And that gave him an idea. Suddenly his driver saw a fallen tree ahead. Harvey and Terence were clearing the track. The Fat Controller was cross. "This storm has caused confusion and delay. Remove this tree immediately." But Toby had an idea. "Please, sir, the windmill has been broken. The wood from this tree can mend it and make it work again." "A splendid idea," agreed the Fat Controller. Toby proudly took the tree to the miller. The miller was delighted. "Now we can build our windmill back up again. It will be as good as new." Bertie collected the brass band and set off immediately. He bumped cheerfully along the country roads. But there was trouble ahead. Last night's storm had flooded the road. Bertie's driver decided to take a shortcut. But it was very muddy. Bertie's wheels did not like the mud. They scooted, they skated, they slid, they slipped. "I'm stuck," he groaned. Bertie revved his engine, but his wheels spun round and round. He couldn't budge. The brass band were worried. "We mustn't be late for our concert." "Tune up your tuba," cried the leader of the band. "We'll call for help." Salty and Fergus chugged back to the docks. They were surprised to see a crowd waiting for them. "Thank you," said the captain. "You saved our ship." "Well done," boomed the Fat Controller. Salty was very proud. "We're sorry if we hurt your feelings," puffed Thomas. "We were only copying you because we think you're grand." "Then say no more, me hearties," replied Salty happily. Now they will all work together and have fun together, as good friends should. By now, Edward was mended and hooked up to his coaches. "I can hear music," said his driver. "That's not music," wheezed Edward. "That's an alarm." And they raced off to the rescue. The musicians were delighted to see their old friend. So was Bertie. "I'll get you to the concert in time," Edward cried. "Thank you," said the worried bandsman. Back at the yards, his driver spoke to the Fat Controller. "Peter Sam thinks this old coach could be a tea room." "I'll have Jem take a look. I'm sure he can repair it," agreed the Fat Controller. The fat controller was right. In no time at all, the old coach had turned into a tea room on wheels. Toby watched as the work began. It took a long time, but at last the new windmill was completed. The fat controller was most impressed. The miller was grateful. "Thank you, Toby. Your idea saved my windmill." Toby beamed happily. Now the windmill produces more flour than ever before. And Toby makes twice as many deliveries to the market. He never tires of watching the sales go round. And he is very proud that the miller now calls it Toby's Windmill. The refreshment lady could hardly believe her eyes. "Oh, it's beautiful. I told you it'd be a piece of cake." The fat controller paused. And with many cakes in it, I'm sure." Then he spoke to Peter Sam. "And you shall pull the Teashop special." "I'd be proud to," replied Peter Sam. Now the refreshment lady serves tea at all her favourite places. At Woodland Way, the Old Castle Causeway, and Whispering Waterfall. Peter Sam is a happy engine. That night, the concert was a great success. Everyone loved the music. Especially Edward.